In this video, I'm going to show you how to make oven-baked clay trinket trays. Also, hello, hi, my name is Jen and I'm an artist illustrator with a love of painting and crafting. So here in the video, I am using polymer clay. It's the Sculpey brand because that's readily available in the US, but you can use any type of oven-baked clay that's available to you. So first you just roll it out. As you saw, I worked it with my hands a little bit to get it nice and soft. You can just follow the instructions on the packet for that part. And I roll it to about 1/4 of an inch thickness. And I take my stencil that I drew myself and I'm using a dull pencil just to create the outline of the stencil. And now I'm using a utility blade to cut around the edges of it. It's pretty straightforward, as you can see. I will do my best to list everything down below in the description for all the items being used. After you finish cutting out the clay trinket tray, you're going to pinch the edges down. In just a second, you'll see exactly what I mean. It's a pretty straightforward process, but it does take a little bit of time to do it properly. I think my first couple trinket trays I made were a little uneven. This is a handmade product, and a lot of people love the aesthetic of a handmade item, so don't overthink it too much. You just want to create this and have fun with it. Here I am pinching the edges and then sort of pulling them up a little bit so that it makes an edge around the clay trinket tray so that actually holds item inside of it. And you just do that all the way around. Now with this shape, the top of the bottle is obviously a slightly more complicated area to work with, and just take your time with those sort of areas. You can also make a simpler design than this one, and I will show you a simple design right after this potion bottle as well. You don't have to do something overly complicated. In fact, the more simple of a design you do for your clay trinket tray, most likely the easier it'll be and the better it'll turn out, at least for the first couple ones. I use an old cookie sheet that I only use for baking my clay items, and I add parchment paper to it. That was the paper that you saw on top of the cookie sheet. You can find it in the baking aisle at your local grocery store. It's super handy. Here we have a simple design. This is going to be No Face from the Studio Ghibli movies. And I also do a lot of ghost shapes. That was the stencil I used, was actually for ghosts. This is going to be a pretty straightforward shape, as you can see, and you just follow the same process with the pinching and pulling until it is in a tray form. You'll be able to make about 3 to 5 trinket trays per 1 pound of oven-baked clay, at least in my experience. Of course, if you make larger trays, you might get less. If you make smaller ones, you might get more. This video is brought to you by my Patreon for September 2023. September happens to be my birthday month, so I went with one of my favorite cartoon characters and gave them little Halloween outfits. I think they turned out super cute. And by the time this video loads, I think you'll have maybe a day to sign up for these rewards. But I will have some extras, and I'm going to have the extras. I think there'll be about 7 of them. I will have them added into October rewards. So if you sign up for Patreon in October, it's possible you could get some Powerpuff Girl stickers as well. So now we're just going to trace the design for what we're painting. And honestly, I just did that to show you that you can draw on these to see your design. I don't actually do this on my own just because I know where to paint and what I'm doing. But for the sake of this video, it is a tutorial, so if you want to draw your design on your clay trinket tray, by all means, just use a pencil. And of course, you then paint your products. So I am using Acrylic Gouache by Holbein, and I also am using Liquetex acrylic gouache and then regular acrylic paint. You can use regular acrylic craft paint, whatever you can afford. The only difference it's going to make is how many layers of paint you have to put down to make a solid layer of paint. Typically, the cheaper your acrylic paint, the more layers you're going to have to do. You can see I just put one layer of paint down with the Holbein acrylic gouache, and it honestly was all I needed for this color. For the light blue around the bottle, I had to do 2 layers. And for the Liquetex color that I'm going to do in the center, which is a really bright green, I had to do quite a few layers, and that had more to do with the color rather than the quality of paint. And for most of the craft paints, it'll be at least 3 to 5 layers, which, yeah, is a lot, but you use whatever paint you have or can afford, and you'll still make a beautiful tray. By the end of it, it just might take a little bit longer. After you have all of your layers painted, it's time to add the details. I use this repurposed oil dropper top. It has this rubber nib on the top, and it makes it perfect for creating perfectly round eyes. You want to gently press down on it, but not too hard, and this will create the perfect little eye. See what happens when you press too hard? It'll mess it up, so you just want to do a nice gentle press. I would practice this before doing it for the first time. I got this oil bottle, I think from TJ Maxx or Marshalls, somewhere like that, for a couple dollars. And after using it, I repurposed it for an art tool item. And I also sometimes keep water in it for when I'm painting with traditional gouache or watercolors. I think it's a handy little item to have in your art studio. So you just keep creating your eyes with your little dropper tool. And sometimes it leaves a little indentation in the paint where you can see the layer underneath. So I'll just go over that again with a little bit more paint, or sometimes I'll grab a paintbrush to fill it in, and even sometimes smooth it out, because sometimes in the very center will be a little peak or mountain of paint, and that can make it hard to go over with the highlights later on if it's too rigid or tall. And I'm using a Posca paint pen for the mouth. You do want to be careful if you're using varnish on top of these in the end instead of resin like I use. The varnish will sometimes smear the Posca paint pen. So you want to go over it very quickly and with purpose if that is how you decide to coat these at the end. So as you can see, I drew the book first and then paint the inside or colored parts of the book. And after I paint this in, I'll go back over and redo the lines, since of course I'm not always going to be perfectly painting this, and some parts will get a little paint on the line. That's no big deal. You just go back over it. I find this way to be a little easy, or at least easy for me, rather than transferring the image on. I just draw it directly and then paint inside of it. And that is, of course, just for items that I'm familiar with drawing. Sometimes I'll go the more traditional way and create a transfer first. So I keep making little cute faces. I do switch up the mouths and eyeball, I guess, length or space in between the eyeballs, you would call it. Here I'm adding a little bit of blush to this little cute potion bottle. To finish up this little potion bottle, I'm just going to add a couple highlights. This is a daughter tool. Mine is specifically from a nail manicure kit. I like to paint my own nails. So I already had this at home and I just repurposed it also for painting my art projects and craft projects. They are so handy. I highly recommend using these in your art. They make things so fun, and it's always really satisfying to get a perfect little circle. As you can see, I did quite a few little highlights in the potion bottle. I think it looks pretty cute. And let's add a little bit of blush to the ghost as well. I just want to give you a little warning. You're about to see a very messy art desk. It is the reality of my life. 90% of the time, this is how my art desk looks. I had created this footage before and I lost it. I'm just showing you some of the safety items that you need for using UV resin. It is caustic and it can cause serious respiratory health issues later in life. So you do want to use a mask, and not just any mask, but a respirator. The little cloth ones that a lot of people use for COVID will not do the trick. This is something that you're not going to notice while using resin, but later in life would greatly affect you. I'm not a nurse or a doctor, but I did used to work in respiratory health. So this is something I take very seriously and want to make sure that you also are taking seriously. So here we have a lot of resin with a copious amount of glitter. You can never have too much glitter in your resin as far as I'm concerned. And you do want to move kind of quickly because, again, this is UV resin, so any sort of sunlight or UV light that is on it will start to harden it. And I am using my nail light that I use for manicures. Sometimes when you pour the resin onto the tray, if you use too much of the resin, it can create these little air bubbles when it dries. So there is a delicate balance to the amount of resin to pour on. I'm not really good at explaining how much. I feel like this is something you just kind of have to figure out on your own. You want enough to cover it, obviously, but not too much to create the air bubbles. As you can see, the glitter looks really, really pretty, very sparkly. Another issue with pouring too much resin is it can take the edge of the tray away. You can see that with this one. I don't think I formed it high enough to begin with. And then when I added the resin, it just made it almost flush with the edge of the tray. So these are some things that you need to look out for as possible hiccups in the process. But if you don't want to use resin, you could also use varnish to finish these. Just know that the varnish will sometimes scratch or chip over time, which is why I use the resin specifically for the top, because these are, for me at least, meant to be trinket trays for like rings and jewelry. As you can see with Frankenstein, I added some little bolts into his neck to make him even more authentic looking. Let me go ahead and show you some glamour shots of all the clay trinket trays that I did for my fall line, and also some other trays that I did that were just easy and fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching. Feel free to give a thumbs up. That really helps my channel grow and get out there to other people who might enjoy making their own little trays.